Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Learning Coach Academy Week 2. We're going to be going over test taking strategies and the CAASPP practice test tutorial. My name is Christina Burt, and I am a supervising teacher here with Compass Charter Schools, and I'm going to be going over some test taking strategies and how to do a practice test at home for our 3rd through 5th grade scholars in our week 2 of the Learning Coach Academy and our test prep weekly workshop series. To start us off, I'm going to go over our mission and our vision. Our mission statement: our mission is to inspire and develop innovative, creative, self-directed learners, one scholar at a time. Our vision statement is: our vision is to create a collaborative virtual learning community, inspiring scholars to appreciate the ways in which arts and sciences nurture a curiosity for lifelong learning and prepare scholars to take responsibility for their future successes. Right here, we have our counseling page. If you joined me last week for week 1, we talked a little bit about this. Our 3rd through 5th grade scholars do not have counselors here at Compass Charter Schools. Our middle school and our high school scholars do. Our 5th graders that are going into 6th grade next year, you will be getting a counselor, and you should be hearing from them soon at the end of this school year, just to go over electives, credits, just because schedules change a little bit when they get to middle school. So these are the lists of our counselors, and they go by last name. If you have any questions, you can always feel free to call, text, or email any of these counselors, and you could see who your potential scholar or counselor would be for your scholar. Or if you just had questions and you wanted to reach out for anything regarding anxiety or just emotional support, this is who you would also reach out to. So our agenda for today. The first thing we're going to do is preparing your scholar for testing with some initial test taking strategies. So the part 1 of this is pretty parents hands off. You can put your scholar in front of the screen and you can allow me just to work with them and just watch along. I do encourage you to stay in the room just in case we run into any issues with kids getting overactive on the chat. I'm going to disable the chat for this session because last week we had some people get on there and just kept going the chat, and it was hard to find questions. So I'm going to set it so you can chat with me and I can answer some questions to you, and it's not just going to be a chat to everyone else. It's going to look a little bit different. So that first half, I'll just be presenting. It's very scholar engaging. The second half, it's going to be a step-by-step tutorial to assist your scholar with the log-on process to practice tests for the smaller balance assessment coming in spring 2021. That one we're going to get off Zoom, and we're actually, you'll be able to see me on Zoom, but we're going to be going over how to access the practice tests with the web browser. So scholars are probably going to need a little bit of assistance for the second half of this. So to start us off, I just want to go over some test taking strategies and why do we take tests. So there's 2 main reasons why we're taking tests. The first is to find out what you already know. We want to see what you were taught and what you know well. And the second reason is just to find out what we still need to learn. It's impossible to know everything, and we're always learning. So we just want to know, what do you know and what do you still need to learn? So your teachers, or if you're in the options programs, your learning coach, mom or dad, may give you a test to see if they've been teaching something in a way that you understand. So it's just us seeing, we've taught you this, do you know it? So that's one reason why we take tests. And if a lot of people get an answer wrong, then we're going to know that we need to teach something again, or that we need to teach it in a way that just makes a little bit more sense. And it's okay if you don't know all the answers on a test. In fact, sometimes your teacher, your learning coach, may purposely put things on a test that you've never been taught just to see if they need to teach it or not. Sometimes you know things if you haven't even been taught a lesson on it. So this is what's called a pretest. Another reason why we take tests, there are some tests that kids across the entire country take. And this is an example of it. This one, the CAASPP, is something across the entire state of California that all of the kids are taking. And we want to see as a whole, what do these kids know and what do they not know? Some people in different areas might learn different things at different times. So in one state, someone's learning long division, and somewhere else, someone's learning fractions. So on a state test, you may see some questions that you've never learned before, and that's okay. It's okay if you don't know the answer to every question. What really matters is that you try your best, even when it's hard. And that's what I want to emphasize the most. It's okay. You're not going to know everything on the test. And if you don't know it, it's okay. Just try your best to pick the best answer. So what matters most when taking a test? Getting every single answer right, or trying your hardest? If you think getting every single answer right is the right answer, I want you to hold up one finger. Oh, you can't see, my finger's disappearing. If you think trying your hardest is the most important, raise up 2 fingers. Let me see, 1 or 2. See. Yep, it's trying your hardest. Great. It's actually okay if you don't know every answer. What is important is that you keep trying and you do your best. Did you know there are some tips and tricks? Whoops, I switched it. Some tricks and tips to help you do better on a test? Let's learn about some of these. So my tip number 1 for you is we need to be physically ready. Mia and Alicia are twins. They're going to take a test. They both studied for it, and they both usually get the same grades. The night before the test, Mia went to bed early and got plenty of rest. Alicia stayed up really late watching movies and playing video games. The morning of the test, Mia ate a healthy breakfast. Alicia woke up late and didn't have time to eat breakfast. Mia made sure to dress in comfortable, warm clothes since it was cold out. Alicia didn't have time to find her jacket or her favorite shoes, so she had to wear her tight, uncomfortable ones. Oh no. Who do you think did better on the test? If you think it was Mia, I want you to raise your 1 finger. Let me see. If you think it was Alicia, I want you to raise 2 fingers. Let me see. So you should be holding up a 1 for Mia and a 2 for Alicia. Let's see. Who do we think did better on the test? You're right. Mia did much better, even though they both studied the same and usually get the same grades. Why do you think Mia did better? What are some reasons? I want you to think. Maybe because she ate a good breakfast, or maybe because she slept really well, she was comfortable, and she wore comfortable clothing. There's all kinds of reasons of why she probably did better. So Mia did better because she was physically ready for the test. That means her body was ready to do its best. Alicia's body was not ready for the test. On the morning of the test, make sure that you've slept well, you've eaten a healthy breakfast, and you're dressed comfortably. This will help you do your best on the test. So we're going to click on what Alicia could do to be physically ready for the next test. She could eat a healthy breakfast. She could wear comfortable shoes. She could is staying up late a good thing? No, she should probably get plenty of sleep, right? And do you think she should eat candy for breakfast? Nope. She shouldn't stay up late or eat candy for breakfast. All right, my next tip number 2 is to cross out answers. So on the CAASPP test, you guys are going to have some multiple choice questions, which means there's going to be a question and then you're going to have some choices and you have to pick which answer is going to be the best one. So when there's several possible answers to a question on a test, we're going to try crossing out the answers that we already know aren't right. So what is an antonym for quiet? Do we know what an antonym is? An antonym means the opposite of something. So if we know what is the opposite of quiet, is silent the opposite of quiet? No. So I'm going to cross that one off. Is purple the opposite of quiet? No. Okay, so I'm going to cross that one off. Now I'm going to go between B and C. It has to be one of those choices because I know, or B and D, because I know that silent and purple aren't possible. I've already crossed them off. So once you get rid of the ones you're sure aren't right, it'll be easier to answer. Now I only have 2 to choose between. Another thing is sometimes questions will have silly answers you can cross off right away. What is 5 times 100? 50, 500, 5,000, or a gazillion? We know gazillion isn't right, and that's a silly answer. So we're just going to cross it off right away. So let's click on the silly answer we could cross off right away on this question. What's a synonym for sad? Remember, synonym means the same. So what is something that means the same as sad? Bashful, melancholy, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, or irritable? Is there one that's straight silly on here? Yeah, it can't be supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Good job. So that one we crossed off right away. And so now we only have to choose between 3. Okay. After you cross off the silly answers, if there are any, cross off any other answers you know aren't right. I know it's not bashful because that means shy. That means it's either B or D, which is the same for sad. Synonym for sad, melancholy or irritable. All right, another thing we can do is let's click on the girl and see how she decides which answer to choose for this question. Who was Little Red Riding Hood going to visit? The Little Mermaid, her aunt, her grandmother, or the wolf? First, I'll cross off the Little Mermaid. That's just silly. She wasn't even in the story. Next, I'll cross off the wolf. I know it wasn't the wolf because why would she want to go visit him? So that must mean it's either her aunt or her grandmother. I think it's her grandmother, but I'll check back in the text to make sure. My tip number 3 for you is skip and return. Ashton and Marcus took a math test. The first question was so hard. Neither of them had ever seen a question like it before. Ashton decided to skip the question and come back later. He made a little mark to remember he needed to come back to it. Marcus wanted to answer his question in order and he wanted to get them all correct, so he stayed on the first question. He took the entire test time trying to answer it. It ended up not being able to answer any of the other questions. Ashton answered all the other questions on the test. They were much easier. Then he remembered to come back and try the first one again. He made his best guess. Ashton ended up getting the first one wrong and Marcus got it right. But who do you think made the best decision on how to take the test? So Ashton got the first one wrong, but he went and he finished all the other 8 questions. He got those right. Marcus took a really long time on that first one. He got it right, but then look at, he got number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 wrong because he wasn't able to answer them. So for Ashton, he chose to skip ahead to the easier problems and come back to the hard one later. Marcus, he chose to stay on the hard one until he was able to answer it. Ashton made the better choice. Since he didn't spend all his time on the hard problem, he was able to answer more questions. Even though Marcus got the first one right, Ashton got more right overall. Tip number 3 is to skip the hard problems and do the easy ones first. After you do the easy ones, you can come back to the hard ones. If you see a problem that's really hard that you know will take a long time, try circling the questions so you know to come back later. Then go ahead and do the easier ones. For you on the CAASPP, it's going to be a little different because it's going to be on the computer. So you can write a note to yourself on scratch paper about a problem you need to come back to, or you can flag it on the computer screen and you can come back to it. Once you finish the easy ones, go back and find the questions you've circled or that you flagged or wrote a note that you needed to come back to so you can answer them. My tip number 4, leave no blanks. It's okay to skip a question and to come back to it later, but it's very important to make sure you do come back and don't leave any blank answers on the test. It's always better to make a guess than to leave an answer blank. Why is that? Let's do an experiment to find out. Let's say you're on a game show and one of these colors is the winning color, but you have no idea which one it is. If you choose the right color, you'll win $1 million. If you don't choose the right color, nothing bad will happen. Should you not choose a color just because you aren't sure which one is the winning color? What do you think? No, of course you should try it. You probably won't win, but you might win if you at least make a guess. Click on which color you think is the winning color. Okay, I want you in your head to think which one's the winning color. Is it red, yellow, blue, green? You win $1 million. All of them won. Aren't you glad you tried, even though you weren't sure? Okay. So it's the same idea on a test. If you've tried your best and you still don't know an answer, always make a guess. Never leave it blank. If you leave it blank, you will definitely get it wrong. But if you at least make a guess, you might just get it right. So let's review these tips we've learned. Then we'll answer some quiz questions to see how well you know them. Tip 1, be physically ready. On the day of the test, make sure you're well rested, have eaten a healthy breakfast, and are wearing comfortable clothes so your body will be ready to do its best. Tip 2, cross out answers. Cross out any answers that you know aren't correct. This will make it easier to choose the best answer. Tip number 3, skip and return. If you see a problem that you know will take a long time, try skipping it and doing the easier problems first. Return to the harder ones after. And tip number 4, leave no blanks. Make sure you don't leave any answers blank after you've tried your hardest. If you still aren't sure about an answer, make a guess. It's always better than leaving it blank. All right, let's see. So Preston was nervous about taking the test. He got overwhelmed by how many answers there were to choose from and always worried he'd get the wrong answer. What tip could Preston use on this question to help him not be overwhelmed by how many choices there are? So it says, which of these is the first color of the rainbow? Red, bright purple polka dots, yellow, black and white stripes. Okay, so he's overwhelmed by the choices. So let's go over the 4 tips I gave you. Tip 1, be physically ready. Is that any part of this? Probably not. We don't know what he's wearing or how his morning went, if he slept, if he ate. So I don't think that tip's going to be one. Tip 2, cross out the answers. Are there any answers on here that are super silly that we know we can just cross off right away? We can just get rid of. Do you see any? Red, bright purple polka dots, yellow, black and white stripes. I see 2. I think that we can say we've never seen a rainbow with bright purple polka dots. So I'm going to cross off that one right away. And I can see that black and white stripes. Have you ever seen a black and white striped rainbow? I haven't. So we're going to cross off B and D, right? And those 2 we can cross off. Preston can cross off a silly answer that any other answers he knows aren't right. That will make it less overwhelming for him. All right, Sammy was taking a math test when he came to a hard problem. He was pretty sure he could answer it correctly, but it would take him a very long time to do. What tip should Sammy use on this problem? Okay, let's go through our tips. Is he physically ready? Do we know that? Do we know how he slept, what he ate, if he's comfortable clothing? No. Okay. Can he cross out any answers that are silly? Do we have any silly answers on here right now, or that we know just aren't right? No. Skip and return. So he's stuck on a hard problem and he wants to get it right, but it's going to take him a long time. Do you think that he should maybe skip that problem and come back to it? I think so. I think that would probably be the best option. Sammy can mark in his test to remind him to come back to the problem later. He can do the easy ones first. So he'll either put a little note on the side, I need to do number 3 again, or he'll mark it on his test that he hasn't done that problem and he's going to do all the easy ones first, then come back to that hard one later. Sammy decided to skip the hard problems and do the easier ones first. He finished all the easy ones and came back to the harder ones. Even after working on a problem for a while, he still wasn't sure what the answer was. He didn't want to guess and get it wrong. What tip should he remember? So remember, you don't know, and you're worried about guessing and getting it wrong. He already skipped it and returned back to it, so we can't choose that one again. There's no silly answers to cross out, and we don't know if he's physically ready. We hope he is. I would go with tip number 4, leave no blanks. You're right. Sammy shouldn't leave any blanks. It's better to guess than to not try at all. Remember our $1 million color experiment. Annie was going to take a test tomorrow morning. She studied, so she wasn't too worried about it. Her sister asked her if she wanted to stay up late and watch a movie with her. What tip should Annie keep in mind before deciding whether or not to watch a movie? Do we know? This one's pretty easy. If she stays up late and watches a movie, do you think she's going to be tired in her test tomorrow? Probably. Yeah, we need to make sure we're physically ready. That's right. Annie needs to remember to be physically ready for her test. Even if she studied, she won't do her best if she doesn't get enough sleep. All right, now let's try a practice test. So I've given you some test taking strategies. Learning coaches, mom, dad, if you're in the room, now's our time to help a little bit. So the first thing is our step 1, we're going to actually do a practice test on the CAASPP website. So our step 1 is you're going to go to www.caaspp.org and you're going to find the tab titled Practice and Training Test right here. And you're going to click on that tab. I'm also going to share the slides with you guys in the chat box. I'm going to share the slides with you so you have this step-by-step tutorial for yourself. Even when we get off of this Zoom call, you'll be able to review the test-taking strategies again if you would like, and you'll have all of these steps on how to access the practice test. I'll go ahead and share that with you. And then if you would like to watch the recording of this, I'll go ahead and send that out as well. That's our step 1. our step 2. So after we get there, you're going to click on the Student Interface Practice and Training Test tab. It's this green one right here, Student Interface Practice and Training Test. You're going to click that. Everyone's there. After you click that, this page is set to guest as default, so you can just click the sign in button to go to the next page. It just says guest, 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 guest. You can just click sign in. You don't have to worry about anything else. All right, so once you do that, you're going to choose the grade of your scholar or your student from the drop-down menu and then click yes. So you're gonna select grade. So here we should be in grades 3, 4, 5. So you're gonna click 3, 4, 5, and then you're gonna hit that little yes. And then our step 5. So you're going to choose what practice test you would like the child to practice. There are 4 practice tests. There's 2 for language arts and 2 for mathematics. The ELA and math are divided into a practice test, which consists of different ways of answering questions, multiple choice, drop-down menu, etc., and the performance task, which is designed writing assignment. So the performance is writing. We're not going to worry about that right now. That one's going to have longer writing requirements, and we're going to focus on that, I think, in week 4 and 5, if I'm right. So we're right now just going to work on the practice test. So where I have the little green and blue arrow, you have the start grade 3 ELA practice test and the start grade 3 math practice test. You can go ahead and do whichever one. If you just want to play and answer a couple questions, that's fine. Each test has 99 opportunities to take it, but logging in as a guest is unlimited. So you can continue to go in as a guest. The only problem is you'll see some of the same types of questions, like the same question over and over again, the more you do it. So you could take whatever one. Remember, we'll wait on the performance task until a few more weeks when we're working together. We'll get to that. Next week, I'm going to go over some ELA strategies, and the week after that, I'll go over some math strategies. So if you want to pick whatever subject's your favorite right now, you can do that. For the practice test, it has to be the green or blue, the ELA practice test or the math practice test, and then you can start. And then we'll do it again next week after I give you some specific test taking strategies for ELA and for math. And that's it. So once you get, once you get there, you can go ahead and start. It's going to ask you if you can hear it. There'll be little prompts. Can you hear? Can you see this? And you'll be able to start. I can actually go over that with you right now in a second. I'll do that with you. Again, we have an attendance survey. This is a new one this week. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the chat. It'll be accessible through the slides, but I'll drop the link in the chat right now. If you can just take that attendance survey before you exit. And so here's some more parent resources we have. Here's the CAASPP has created parent resources for you. They're fantastic if you want to look at that. Please note the technology checker section for scholars to check that their devices are ready for testing. Remember, you have to have a webcam, and it has to be, I can't even think anymore. You have to be able to access the Smarter Balance secure browser. And then the CAASPP Starting Smarter for parents and scholars. And then here's the practice and training test. And remember the Typetastic, it's a free subscription for typing practice. Just ask your supervising teacher to get you set up. And like I said, 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, super important that you know how to type because there is a lot of typing. So if you have not practiced your typing, I highly encourage you to get onto Typetastic and get that going. Online scholars, if you have a question about Typetastic, feel free to message me or email me after this. And for any immediate questions, you can always contact your ST right away, or you can contact me. My email is, I should write it down, but I'll type in the chat box too, cvert@compasscharters.org. So I'm going to go to, just to show you guys, I'm on the CAASPP website, and I wanted to show you what it looks like. So we go to the student interface practice and training tests one more time. And if you already have done this and you want to move on, you can go ahead, and thank you guys for joining me. I will see you guys next week, but if you want to hang out with me and watch me go through it, we can do that too. So I'm going to have it all as guest and just sign in. Okay, I'm gonna select my grade. I'm gonna pretend I'm a 3rd grader today. And once I'm a 3rd grader, it's gonna ask me, what practice test do I wanna take? And remember, we're gonna worry about the performance test later. So I'm gonna do the ELA practice or the math practice. I like math. I'm gonna click the math. All right, and then we don't need sign language. It needs to be in English. Text to speech, I don't need text to speech. I'm okay. The glossary is gonna be in English. It's already set. For you if you really want to go in, but I am going to leave it as everything is the default settings. I'm going to press select. Then this is going to come up with a sound and video playback check. And it's just going to ask me if I can hear it. If I can hear it, I could play the sound and video. It works. I'm going to continue. And it says, you may select the question mark button to access this help guide anytime during your test. And I'm just going to begin my test now. I've already reviewed my test settings. And then once I do that, this is what the test is going to look like for you guys in the spring. This is what the CAASPP test will look like. So Megan baked 28 sugar cookies and 24 chocolate chip cookies. Enter the number of cookies Megan baked in all. So I would do my 28 plus 24, and I would type my answer. And whoops, I'm going to get out of here so you can see we have our save and our pause. Once you get past the next question, it's going to make me answer this one before I can continue. And it gives you the progress of everything that's going on there. So once I answer my question, I will put next on there, and then it'll all continue to go through. So today, if you are going to do this, my suggestion to you, just really I'm going to focus on the next week and the week after on ELA strategies and then math strategies, like really strengthening those to answer these questions. Today, I just kind of want you guys to get familiar with logging on to the practice test, how to access that CAASPP website, how to get there, how to get on, and just maneuvering and clicking and getting familiar with the computer itself more than the answers. So if I were you, I wouldn't stress out about the actual test questions quite yet. Just work on the back button, the next, the save, the pause. What is line reader? What is zoom out, zoom in? What does this do? Mark for review. Oh, look, I have a notepad. Just kind of clicking around and just figuring out what everything does, just playing with it. So that would be my charge to you today. After we get off here, just playing around with the practice test and the computer and how it works. And if you have not signed up for Typetastic, I highly encourage you to do that as well. And I'll be here for a little bit on the chat, and I'll help you guys and I'll answer any questions. As always, if you have any questions, you can email me and I'll be more than happy to respond to you. Please fill out the attendance survey if you have not done so already. And I hope you guys all have a great afternoon. I will see you next week.